What's up everyone? Last video we covered all the knives in CS2 and today we're going to cover all the gloves. Now if you're new to CS2, there's 72 gloves, there's a lot, they're all different, they have different colors, different price points. So today it's going to be a buying guide. We're going to cover the tips, tricks, things to know about every glove in the game so you can decide which ones you should get. With that being said, let's get right into the video. First up, let's cover all the Moto gloves in CS2. These are the polygons and they make for great budget blue gloves. There's a pattern on the back that's geometry based and depending on the pattern that kind of changes, but they all do look very similar. The inner palm is dark blue, it's great for blue steels, and the back is like a more lighter blue that's going to work really well with phase 4s. Overall, if you're looking for a budget blue glove, these are a great choice. Next up, the blood pressures, which are kind of like a sporty glove with a red and gray colorway, very busy. It's like a blood splatter design that is pattern based, so it does change depending on the pattern. Knuckles are going to be carbon fiber, which is a huge benefit. Inner palm is going to be gray and red, it's kind of half and half. Overall, just a great glove. It is quite cheap, similar to the polygons, pattern based, and fits with a ton of knives. Smokeouts are one of the most versatile gloves in the entire game because the colorway is monochromatic. Basically all light gray and white. It's going to work with a ton of knives, especially the vanillas. The swoosh on the back is light blue and the inner palm is going to be full gray, but we do see some of that wisp pattern on the back. Now this glove is actually pattern based. Depending on the pattern, the wisp on the back of the glove is going to change, but it's a very minor difference. If you're looking for a very neutral glove that provides great value, smokeouts are a great choice. Turtles are one of the few gloves in the game to have green as the base color. Secondary color is going to be gray, and we have a few orange accents here and there. These gloves are incredibly cheap. You can get a super clean pair for under 180, so it's a great choice for budget green inventories. Inner palm is going to be basically full gray with a few green accents here and there. Overall, a great glove if you want green and budget. Next up, spearmints are my favorite gloves in the entire game. I think they look incredible. They're super clean. The colorway is going to be white, green, brown with orange swooshes on the back and orange stitching. These are super expensive gloves, and I only really recommend them in 0.26 and below to keep them fresh. Now, the inner palm is basically pure white. It's the only glove in the game to have pure white as the base color, which makes a lot of inspecs look absolutely gorgeous. These are pattern-based gloves, so you can kind of get more white or more green depending on the pattern. The best patterns typically are going to be white at the bottom with a gradient of green towards the top. Overall, just a gorgeous pair of gloves, but keep in mind, extremely expensive. Today's video is sponsored by Clash.gg, a case opening site with a ton of different cases to choose from. They also offer game modes like Crash, Doubles, and Case Battles where you can open cases with up to 5 players. If you want to open 3 cases completely free, you can use code SLADE and that also gives you a 5% deposit bonus. Link is in the description. You can instantly withdraw using crypto or choose from a huge selection of skins and pick your favorites. If you do KYC, Clash offers a rain feature where you can claim free gems every 30 minutes and a free daily case. Remember, this is a case opening site, so only play if you're over the age of 18 and gamble responsibly. The self-exclusion feature is there if you need it. Next up, POW gloves are basically the orange spearmints. They have white as the base color and brown knuckles, and instead of the green on the back, we're going to have a comic book style theme to it with red, orange, and yellow as the base colors with a red swoosh on the back. These are pattern based gloves, so depending on the pattern, you can have more red, more orange, or more white. It just depends on preference. Inner palm is full white similar to spearmints, not as clean, but it still looks great. Overall, it's a great glove if you want something vibrant in the Moto glove style, and they are expensive by Moto glove standards, but not nearly as expensive as spearmints. Finish lines are super cheap Moto gloves with a racing theme in mind. We have a checkerboard pattern on the back that is pattern based, so depending on the pattern, the checkerboard kind of moves side to side, but it all looks very similar. We have lime green accents with a lime green swoosh, and the inner palm is basically full dark blue. These gloves are very off meta, very interesting colorway. If you're looking to pair something with blue steels or Gamma Doppler phase 4 accents, I would consider these gloves, especially at how low of a price they sit at. If you're looking for another budget off meta glove pick, I would consider the booms. These use the exact same pattern sheet as the POWs with a comic book style. However, the colors here are going to be brown with white outlines. The swoosh on the back is light red and the stitching is light red as well. The color combo is excellent, very nice contrast. These gloves have great synergy with slaughter knives or anything that's brown. Inner palm is going to be full brown as well. Overall, just a great glove, especially if you like that brown color. Another great pair of budget gloves is going to be Eclipse. They're very neutral. Gray is the main color covering everything. However, all of the accents are going to be light yellow. So the swoosh on the back, the Tortu logo, a few bits on the side, and the inner palm, which has a very nice pattern. It's a geometry pattern made out of triangles that has great synergy with Shadow Dagger's lore in particular. Once again, very cheap glove. If you like gray and you want some yellow accents on it, definitely a great choice. Transports are one of the cheapest gloves in the entire game, and they only have one color, which is peanut butter yellow. That covers the entire glove, and a lot of people don't know this, but these gloves are actually pattern based. The camo pattern on the back changes, but it's very hard to tell. Now the inner palm, once again, is going to be the same color, so if you want cheap and yellow, go for it. However, I will say these gloves are hard to work with in terms of combos or making loadouts. Next up, the third Commando Company gloves, which have one of the weirdest colorways I've seen on any glove. So we have black knuckles, black straps, we have a pattern-based back, which is green, red, and black. You can kind of pick which color you have more of depending on the pattern. We have yellow on the side, red on the inner palm. It's kind of like a Ninja Turtle glove. I don't know if this glove will appeal to a lot of people because of the colorway. However, if you like these camo militaristic style gloves, I would consider it because these gloves are also super cheap. The last Moto glove of the video is going to be Cool Mints, which are absolute bangers. Super clean gloves. We have white with multiple shades of blue as the colorway. The swooshes on the back are light blue, and these gloves are pattern based. So very similar to Spearmint's, we have a geometry pattern, and depending on which pattern you choose, you can have more white, more dark blue, or more light blue. Once again, inner palm, a plethora of different shades of blue. Just a gorgeous glove all around, very customizable, but keep in mind these gloves are quite expensive, especially for the Moto glove standard. So to recap, Moto gloves have a ton of benefits. They're very cheap, so they provide incredible value. There's a ton of colors to choose from, and they're very customizable with the patterns. The one negative is going to be that they're bulky because of the knuckles, but if you don't mind that, I think these gloves are a great choice. Next up are sports gloves, the most expensive glove type in CS2. First up is going to be Vice gloves, very expensive and incredibly vibrant. It's the only glove in the game to have pink as the base color. Secondary is going to be baby blue. It's a very vibrant, colorful glove. It's going to work perfect with Doppler Phase 2s or your fade knives. Keep in mind, this glove wears a lot, so I do recommend lower floats. The wear shows up on the knuckles, so it's going to be very visible. I do recommend a lower float, but other than that, an incredible glove that is super vibrant. Next up, we've got Scarlet Chamas, which are black, red, and gray. They look very different from other sports gloves because they have a pattern that covers the whole backside. They are pattern-based as well, and you can kind of get some different patterns where you have more red or more black, just depends on the pattern you choose. Inner palm is going to be full black and red, perfect knife for your red or black knives, and also this glove wears really, really well. I do recommend it in high floats because underneath you're going to get that dark red color that doesn't look as bad as nearly like the Vices or the Pandoras. Also, this glove is very cheap, so I do highly recommend it for budget sports glove combos. The most versatile glove in the entire game is by far going to be the Nox for multiple reasons. They're full black, they have an animal print on them, and they're pattern based. Now, the patterns have a tiered system. The higher the tier, the more black the pattern is going to be, and the cleaner the glove looks. Also, these gloves wear really, really well, so you can get them in battle scarred, well worn, high float field tested, and you can hardly see any wear. It's going to look pristine. Overall, these gloves work in so many cases, and they're a little bit expensive, but definitely worth the price. Amphibious gloves are absolutely gorgeous. They have bright blue colors, white as the base color, and this aqua pattern on the back of both gloves, which is pattern based, so you can get different orientations of the water depending on the pattern. Now, these gloves look phenomenal. There is one massive downside, and that's because they wear really, really bad. And I mean incredibly bad. Even minimal wear to low float field tested is going to have a ton of wear, so I do only really recommend these gloves in super low floats. If you don't mind wear, obviously get them in whatever condition you want, but if you want them to look clean, you actually really have to get them in minimal wear. Overall, still a great looking glove. Next up, we've got Slingshots, which are bright red with a mesh texture on the back of the gloves. It's a very sporty looking glove. We have white as the secondary color. Inner palms are actually tan with a camo pattern on them. Now, these gloves are a go-to for high tier red glove knife combos, and obviously they're going to be expensive because the color and the glove type is highly desired. Pandora's Box are the most expensive gloves in the entire game. They have the mesh pattern that we see on the Slingshots, but here we have purple as the main color, which is why they're so highly desired. The inner palm is absolutely gorgeous. It's pattern based, and we get that demon pattern, so you can get different orientations of the demons depending on the pattern. Obviously, black as the secondary color is a perfect choice for purple. Overall, extremely expensive gloves, thousands for even field tested, but overall, obviously, they look incredible. Next up, hedge mazes, which have a very interesting take on the sport glove look. They have that distinct maze pattern covering the entire backside of the glove. We have gray in the middle, white for the accents, and lime green is the main color. Incredibly vibrant color, by the way. The inner palm has these Icarus logos, and it is pattern based, so the Icarus logos move around depending on the pattern. Also, these gloves have insanely good wear patterns, so well worn and field tested looks pretty much minimal wear to factory new, and that factored in with the fact that they're green, which is very rare on gloves. These gloves are going to be super expensive. Next up, we've got Big Aims, which are actually pretty cheap for the sport glove look, and they provide incredible value. The main color is going to be orange, brown, and white, and they are incredibly pattern based. So every pattern will look very different. You can get max brown, max orange, fire, sun, different orientations of the tree branches. There's a ton of utility for these gloves. Also, the inner palm looks incredible. We have this nice orange color in the middle. Overall, just a phenomenal glove. They don't even show wear that much, so you can get them in field tested and they will look great. Overall, just a phenomenal kit for this pretty cheap glove. Bronze morphs are very interesting. They have the triangle pattern of the Omegas, the aqua pattern of the Amphibious, but the colors are going to be green and red, which is kind of like a watermelon. Inner palm is going to be gray, so overall the colors are very strange, which is partially why it's so cheap, because a lot of people don't like the colors on it. If you're looking for some combos with gut knife emeralds or rubies, or something, more unique, this is definitely the glove. On the other hand, superconductors are quite expensive, and that's because they look phenomenal. They have a futuristic feel to them with a hexagonal pattern covering the entire backside and a rubber texture. The colors are going to be white, gray, and blue, which looks great. Inner palm is also pattern based. Depending on the pattern, the hexagons will shift left or right, and also this glove wears incredibly well, so you can get it even in battle scarred and it's still going to look really good, because when it wears, it kind of leaves like gray spots, which kind of fit the theme of the gloves. Once again, expensive, futuristic, and it looks phenomenal. Last but not least, we've got Arid gloves, which are quite expensive, but not very expensive as far as sports gloves go. They have a tan colorway. We've got that mesh pattern from the slingshots. Inner palm is going to have this DD pack camo on it, which looks great. Obviously, it's a great glove if you want to do like a camo loadout or anything that's tan colored. These gloves wear pretty hard, so I do recommend field tested and up. Overall, a great glove if you're going for tan colorways. Most people consider sports gloves to be the best gloves in the game because of how clean they look, the different textures they offer, and of course the multitude of colors. Now, the one big downside to them is of course going to be the price. Since most people desire them so much, they're going to be very expensive, so if you want these gloves, be ready to pay a ton for them. Next up, let's cover all the fingerless gloves very quickly. First up is the Hydra with the spikes and the snakes on the back. This one is going to be the case harden gloves. Obviously, they're incredibly pattern based. Depending on what pattern you have, you can get blue gems, gold gems, blaze gems, or even white gems. Just depends on the pattern that you choose. They're incredibly customizable and super cheap, but I will say they kind of look pretty bad when you get them in high floats. Emerald gloves are pretty basic and opt for a two-tone colorway. The base color is going to be brown. Then we have the mesh pattern and the snakes, which turn lime green. Quite bright as well. The little buttons on the side are going to be lime green as well. Inner palm full brown. It's a pretty basic glove, but it's quite cheap and quite vibrant for the price. Mangroves are one of the cheapest gloves in the entire game. They have a mesh pattern and a tan colorway throughout the entire glove. However, the accents here are going to be gold on the snakes and the spikes. Inner palm looks pretty much identical. It's a pretty basic glove that's very dull, and for that reason, it's super cheap. Rattlers have the same colorway as the mangroves, and the accents stay gold as well on the snakes and the spikes. However, the texture here is going to be snakeskin instead of the mesh for the previous gloves. Once again, a super cheap glove just because the colors are quite dull. Next up, the Broken Fang gloves. First up is going to be the Unhinged, and these gloves are great. They're incredibly cheap, and the colorway is monochromatic. So if you're looking for a versatile glove that's super cheap, you have a low budget, these gloves are great. They have a snakeskin pattern on them, they have silver accents, they look great with a ton of knives, a ton of gloves. They're just a wonderful pair of gloves, especially when you're in the super low budgets. Jade gloves are great if you're looking for a super budget green glove. They have the same texture as the case hardened gloves. However, the colors here are going to be bronze and green. Very nice contrast, ton of options to work with, and overall just a great glove. It's green and it's cheap. What more can you ask for? And the last Broken Fang gloves are going to be the Yellow Bandits. They have the same pattern that we see on the amphibious gloves, but here the colorway is actually going to be yellow and black, which I think looks incredible. Accents and the spikes are both full golden, which also complements the colors. Inner palm looks very similar to what we see on the back. Overall, if you want a yellow or black inventory or golden as well, these gloves provide incredible value for the super low price. For Bloodhound gloves, we're going to start with the Charred. These gloves have a great colorway, brown as the base, silver accents, and a red mesh pattern, which is going to have great synergy with autotronic knives specifically. Also, some agents match really well with these gloves, so these gloves are pretty niche in utility. However, in those specific scenarios, they excel and they're incredibly cheap. Next up, Bronze gloves have a two-tone colorway of bronze and silver. They have the exact same texture that we see on Jades and the case hardened gloves, and the colors are going to be bronze as the base and silver accents and cuffs. Inner palm is basically full bronze. These gloves are super cheap, however, I will say they are quite limited in how much you can do with them in terms of combos and inventories. The snakebite gloves combine a snakeskin pattern with golden accents, and the color is going to be brown, tan, and obviously golden. It's a pretty unique glove, once again harder to work with, but obviously the price is going to be super low. Lastly, the gorilla gloves, which have a ton mixed into them. Golden accents, camo pattern covering the backside of the gloves, we have a red mesh pattern on the cuff. There's just so much mixed into one glove that it's kind of hard to work with. However, if you're looking for like a camo loadout or you want to pair this with slaughter knives, it actually works pretty well for the incredibly low price, one of the cheapest gloves in the game by far. Next up, let's cover all the hand wraps, starting with the Cobalt Skulls. It's a lovely pair of gloves that's mid-priced, and we have light blue and dark blue as the main colors. The design is skulls, and obviously this glove is incredibly pattern-based, so you can get large skulls towards the pointer finger, in the middle towards the bottom, just depends on what pattern you like. Inner palm looks very similar, we have that Tortu logo. Obviously it's going to be a perfect glove for blue inventories or blue combos, just a great glove all around. Next up, one of my personal favorites is going to be the overprint gloves. They have a ton of benefits, starting with the teal color that's quite vibrant. They're quite cheap as well, and they wear pretty well, so you can get them in high floats, and they still look pretty good. Now, these gloves have 3 specific patterns that you can get on them. First up, you can get the flower patterns, as you can see on the right hand. In the middle, we have these little flower patches going through the middle. Also, you can get arrow patterns, which you see on the right hand towards the top, and you can also get triangle patterns, which you kind of see sprinkled around both sides of the gloves. Overall, this glove is nuanced, great patterns, great price, just everything you could possibly want, and with a really nice color. Next up, the caution gloves are bright yellow and gray and have little messages written on them like caution and danger. Depending on the pattern that you have, you can kind of move where the messages are. So if you want caution up top or caution at the bottom, you can actually switch that depending on the pattern. Once again, inner palm is the same, yellow Tortu logo. These are mid-priced gloves. You can actually get them in pretty good floats at low prices. And if you want something that's incredibly vibrant on the glove and like a subdued knife, more like a vanilla, these are actually a great option. The duct tape gloves are very self-explanatory. We have wraps with leather on top. That's pretty much it. It's gray and white, works incredibly well with Talon vanillas. Any of the Talon knives work really well here. It's a super cheap glove, kind of like a meme glove. However, I do have to point out these gloves wear really bad. When they wear, the duct tape kind of like gets scratched away, so you see these big marks. So I highly recommend going for a low float. But the good thing is these gloves are cheap, so getting a low float is not a problem at all. The slaughter gloves are basically the opposite of the Cobalt Skulls. Instead of 2 shades of blue, here we have 2 shades of red, and they are pattern based. On the inner palm, we have a tan Tortu logo, which is kind of different compared to the Cobalt Skulls. And also, these gloves do work a little bit different in patterns compared to slaughter knives. Here, the pattern sheet is more zoomed in, so you kind of get different blobs of light red, dark red, and all the patterns look very similar. However, I do recommend checking out some of the patterns. As far as price go, these are actually quite affordable. Desert Chamas are incredibly cheap and have a 2-tone colorway of tan and brown. They actually use the exact same pattern sheet that we see on the Scarlet Chamas, and these gloves are of course pattern based. It's kind of like a Dune / fashionista print mixed into one. Pretty cool glove. I actually do enjoy using them. They're going to work pretty well in brown inventories or anything that's full tan. Similar to duct tapes, leathers are the exact same thing. We have some cloth and then we have leather wrapped around instead of the duct tape. Here, it actually doesn't matter as much with the wear as it did with the duct tapes. Kind of works a little bit better. Once again, more of like a meme glove, but if you enjoy this style, I'd say go for it. It's not an expensive glove. The constrictor gloves obviously take inspiration from snakes, from the snakeskin texture to the pattern as well. Also, these gloves are pattern based and you can get some very different ones. So basically the snakeskin moves up and down and it's going to look very different from pattern to pattern. I do actually recommend checking it out. Some patterns look very orange, some look very brown. Inner palm, once again, is going to be very similar. We have this like light tan / yellow Tortu logo, quite cheap gloves and look incredible with anything that's rust coat or full brown. The arboreal gloves are your run-of-the-mill camo-based gloves. We have green, tan, and brown as the main colors. Obviously, it's going to be pattern-based, but all of the patterns look very similar. It's a very cheap glove, quite basic, green Tortu logo. Not much to talk about. If you like camo and you like hand wraps, you need something for CT, go for these. Badlands are very similar to arboreal. They're quite cheap, it's a camo pattern, and the glove is pattern-based as well. However, here, the colorway is actually more of like an orange, tan, brown instead of the green on the arboreals, and in my opinion, I think these gloves pop way more than the previous ones. Tortu logo is going to be orange, and there's not actually that many orange gloves in the game, so if you do like orange, these gloves are a great budget choice. And similar to the two previous gloves, the Spruce DD pad is super cheap, tritone colorway, which is green, tan, and white, but here we actually have a DD pad pattern, which I think looks a little bit better. Also, these gloves are heavily pattern based. Once again, it's all going to look quite similar, but you can kind of move around and pick whichever dark spots you like the most with the dark green. Inner palm, we're going to have this pretty interesting teal Tortu logo, which a lot of people probably don't know about, and these gloves wear pretty well. Very hard to work with in terms of inventories, but I have to mention the synergy between these gloves and a flip knife vanilla is incredible. And the final hand wraps are going to be the giraffe. Now look, if you get a cheetah print, if you get lion, tiger, even a jaguar print, I understand. However, a giraffe is a little bit strange, okay? This gotta be the furry gloves. The base color is gonna be brown. Obviously, the glove is gonna be super pattern based, and the Tortu logo has this like bright cream tan color to it. They're super cheap, and they work with absolutely nothing, okay? These gloves don't work with anything. Now, when it comes to hand wraps, it really depends on if you enjoy fingerless gloves or you don't. Also, these gloves are perfect for T-side. They match thematically and work really well with T-side guns. Also, these gloves are priced quite well, so it is a great option if you want to go for like a T-side CT side split. Now we're going to cover driver gloves, which have the pins on the side and the band stripe on the inner palm. First up is Razanda Red. The base color is going to be light red. It's actually kind of hard to work with because slaughters don't really match it one-to-one. The pins on the side are full golden and the stitching on the back is tan. As you can see, the inner palm is gorgeous. It's like a charcoal black color that looks really nice on the red, and the stripe in the middle of the palms is actually going to be tan as well. This glove is fairly priced. It's not too expensive. It is kind of hard to work with in terms of glove knife combos, but there's a ton of gun skins in the game that work really well here. One of the best budget gloves in the game is going to be Overtake. I always recommend them because they work with so many knives, so many gun skins. They are incredibly versatile. The base color is brown, the suede and the side that's fuzzy is going to be orange, and the inner palm looks incredible. It's basically full orange. I absolutely love these gloves. They look incredible and field tested. They're going to look pretty much fact new, and also they have a super low price, so it is a perfect beginner glove. One of the cheapest driver gloves in the game is going to be Racing Green, and it's pretty simple. We have dark green as the base color, and the suede is actually going to be gray, as well as the inner palms. A lot of people don't really like these gloves because they're so dull. However, if you're looking for like a dark green loadout, or you want to use lower knives, these gloves are actually pretty good in that scenario. Otherwise, they're very hard to work with, but also keep in mind they're incredibly cheap. Lunar weaves are quite different from the three previous gloves because they don't have the stitching. Here we have a checkerboard design, brown as the base color, and teal as the secondary color. I have to say, they're very low-key, very subdued gloves, but they're quite elegant. Inner palm is gorgeous. It is this nice teal color. They work incredibly well with night finishes on a lot of knives, and also, you know, the darker colors on gun skins are going to work really well here. As far as pricing goes, they're quite cheap gloves. I think they're excellent for a lot of situations. The first pattern-based driver glove that we're going to cover is going to be Queen Jags. On the inner palm, we get a black band, we have some tan spots, and the entire glove is basically like this mustard tan color. Now, as far as patterns go, the better patterns typically don't have these very big, large black spots on the back. It's just going to be these little ghosts floating around that makes the glove look super clean. Obviously, for anything like a jungle inventory, if you want to pair these gloves with a Panthera Onca or gold gems, that's all going to work really well. And also, these gloves are once again quite cheap for this style. Crimson Weave gloves are basically the inverse of the Lunar Weaves. Here we have the checkerboard style. However, the base color is actually going to be red, and the secondary color is going to be brown. It looks great, nice color combo. We have golden pins on both sides. However, I will say the inner band being like this blue color is a little bit weird. It kind of clashes with the brown inner palm, but I will say gloves are cheap. They have some nice use cases, especially with the stiletto slaughter. It is a gorgeous glove knife combo. Next up, Diamondbacks, in my opinion, are heavily underappreciated. It's a very simple and elegant glove. We have a snakeskin pattern, brown, tan, and white as the main colors. It's nothing fancy, but if you enjoy these simple colors, I think it's a great glove. Also, this glove is not pattern-based. It does look like the snakeskin should be pattern-based where it shifts side to side, but all 1,000 patterns look exactly like this. Also, on these snakeskin driver gloves, the inner band looks super clean because it's like an hourglass design. It has like this nice designer feel to it, and overall, just a lovely glove. Super low price for these. If you like the driver glove style and you like camo, you have the Convoys. They're super cheap, they're pattern based. We have green, brown, and tan as the base colors. Inner palm is basically full brown with a green band. They're pretty simple gloves. I'm not the biggest fan of them. However, I do have to admit, I've seen some people make some incredibly nice combos with these gloves, even in terms of guns, knives, and agents as well. The most expensive driver gloves in the game is going to be King Snakes, and that's for a reason. We have a base cream white color that looks very nice. We have that snakeskin style on the back back. Also, these gloves, similar to Diamondbacks, are not pattern based. All 1,000 patterns look identical. I have to mention, these gloves wear really bad. Yes, they are expensive, but overpaying for a better float is absolutely worth it here. Also, one huge positive with these snakeskin driver gloves, once again, the inner band is going to have that hourglass formation that just has this super fancy, clean looking design. Overall, these gloves are lovely. As long as you get them in low floats, they're going to work with so many knives, especially the talons, and so many skins. The black ties are a fan favorite among many. A lot of people use them. It has a two-tone colorway of white and black. However, I do have to mention that the black is more of like a brown, which some people might view negatively. The stitching on the back is actually full black, and the inner palm is full white with a black band. I do have to talk about wear. You need to get these gloves with a good wear pattern and low float, below like 0.20 for it to look clean, because the inner palm starts getting very dark, and the back, the knuckles, start getting a lot of scratches on them. So if you want these gloves to look clean, once again, go for good wear, good float. But also, these gloves are going to work with a ton of inventories, a ton of agents, and a ton of knives, especially black laminates. Next up, snow leopards are a pattern-based glove. They use the exact same pattern sheet as the queen jags, so obviously the best patterns are going to be the same. It's going to be the little ghosts instead of the deep black dark spots that kind of make the glove look a lot darker. The base cream color is very nice. We see it on the inner palm, and the band is full black. It's a very nice two-tone colorway glove, very clean. It's going to be quite expensive, and I have to recommend going for very low floats. The wear shows up on the actual pattern itself, so it makes the glove look way worse. However, if you do get it in a low float, it's a wonderful glove with a ton of use cases. Last but not least, we've got Imperial Plaids. Now, if you want purple in CS2, you have two options. Pandora's Box gloves, which are thousands and thousands, or these gloves, which are only a couple hundred. So as far as color goes, these are a crazy value. They're also pattern-based, so you can kind of pick what pattern you get. If you get more of the dark purple, light blue, just depends on the pattern you get. Also, these gloves wear really nicely, so you can get them in high float field tested, and they still look good. Even maybe well worn, depends on the wear pattern. Inner palm, once again, full purple. We have this like light blue or darker blue inner band. Just a great glove all around with a ton of benefits. When it comes to driver gloves, they're less bulky than the Motos, they have the fingers compared to the hand wraps, and they're cheaper than the sports gloves. So there's a lot of incentive to actually go with this glove type compared to the others. Starting with the Crimson Web gloves, it's a very popular choice for red and gray inventories, and it's also in the mid-budget as far as prices go. Now this glove is incredibly pattern based. We have that Crimson Web pattern on the back, so there's a lot of variation. You can get centered webs, you can get uneven webs. There's a lot of patterns to choose from for these gloves, and the patterns that are better obviously are going to cost way more. Also, the bright red color is a huge bonus. Inner palm is going to be partially red. However, whenever you actually hold a gun, for example the M4 with this glove, you actually see the bright red very well, so it's going to match really nicely with bright red skins. As far as knives go, you could go red, you could go black, you could even go gray. There's a ton to choose from. Wonderful pair of gloves, just get them in a good float. Next up, the fade gloves are mid-budget. Now, I do highly recommend getting them in a lower float, because once they start showing wear on the mesh pattern, it looks way worse. It's a huge difference. Now, this glove is primarily blue as the main color, obviously the mesh pattern, and a gray inner palm. As far as patterns go, this is one of the most pattern-based gloves in the entire game with a tremendous amount of variation. I highly recommend checking out a pattern guide for it. There's so many options. You can get max pink and purple, you can get pink on both Tortu logos, you can get max yellow, full fades, lowest fades. There's so many options to choose from. Also, this glove is perfect for anything Doppler related. You can find a pattern on these gloves for pretty much every Doppler phase. It is a super versatile glove, and it's incredibly bright as well. When it comes to marble fades, they're actually pretty similar to fade gloves. We have a pretty similar price, we have base blue color, and keeping the float low so you don't get tears in the fabric of the glove. However, there is one enormous difference, and that's that these gloves are not actually pattern based. Yes, they have 1,000 different patterns. However, when you change the pattern on these gloves, the colors, the yellow, red, and the blue always stays in the exact same position, which for me is a massive negative. I really hate that they didn't make this glove truly pattern based. You're gonna get the blue inside the exact same spot. I will say inner palms are lovely with that red color, but once again, it not being pattern based is a huge negative. However, if you do like the stock layout of the colors, I would say these are great gloves. One of the best value gloves in the entire game is going to be field agent gloves. Now, the colorway, we have white outlines, blue as the base color, and yellow accents. A lovely color choice. These gloves work with so many other skins. For example, Ava as the agent, blue steel knives of pretty much any kind, skins like the inheritance. There's so much to choose from. Also, these gloves wear really nicely. So if you get them in high float field tested, even well worn, they're still going to look very good. And overall, the package for these gloves is incredible. So much synergy with so many skins, and it just always looks good. Next up, the Mogul gloves have some great things about them and at an attractive price. The Tortu logo being bright yellow is a nice touch. It's very visible. The colorway, we've got gray, dark blue, and light blue, and also the inner palm is gorgeous. It's a very bright blue color, especially if you hold the skin with the same color. It just matches so nicely. Also, this glove is pattern based, so you can kind of get different configurations. The pattern sheet is very similar to the Spearmint's. However, the colors here are going to be more gray, more white, more light blue, more dark blue. Really comes down to what patterns you like. You can pick the colors that you like. You have so many options with them, and overall, just a wonderful glove, especially when you hold guns with it. Tiger Strikes are one of the most underrated gloves in the game, and by far the best orange glove in CS2. First off, the color scheme is literally perfect. Ivory, dark brown, we've got orange, and then we've got that tiger stripe design in the middle. The color choices are incredible. Inner palm is wonderful. We have brown, we have ivory fingertips, which makes it a perfect choice for the Desert Hydra op. We've got orange on the cuff. Everything is where it should be. It's very clean. I do recommend better floats. However, it actually looks pretty good in higher floats as well. Also, you can pair this with talons. Anything orange on CS2 skins, it's gonna look the best with this glove because there's only a few gloves in the game that have this orange color, and this is by far the best one. Technically speaking, if we consider patterns, Crimson kimonos are by far the most expensive glove in CS2, being far more expensive than Pandora's Box. In fact, new if you get them in a tier 1 max red pattern, but I don't think that's actually been unboxed yet. Now, people absolutely love these gloves. This is the high tier red glove. We have a very nice colorway of gray and red. The inner palm, it's pretty subdued. It's basically just gray. However, on the back, it's where the magic happens. We have a super pattern based glove with a ton of options, a ton of tiers to choose from. For max red, we have max black, all sorts of gradients, even 2 different hands. For example, left is full red, right is full black. Just so many options to choose from. A ton of skins work with these gloves. Anything from like high tier red inventories to rubies, you can all pair that with these gloves. And obviously, these gloves are going to be exceptionally expensive, and the wear is very important here. Emerald webs are basically the green version of the Crimson web gloves, and everything that applied there is going to apply here. Obviously, it being green is a huge benefit because there's not a lot of gloves that are green, and these gloves can get very expensive depending on float and pattern. I do recommend a good float on it. Maybe like, field tested and lower is going to look quite good. Inner palm is pretty basic. We've got gray and lime green cuffs. Overall, the colors are great. Obviously, the rare patterns, you can get the single web, the double web, centered webs. It can get very expensive. I do recommend checking out the pattern for these gloves. There's a ton of patterns to choose from, and it's a great glove, but quite expensive. Lieutenant Commanders are very cheap and they're pattern based, so you can get different patterns. However, the reason they're cheap is because the colors completely don't make sense. We've got yellow outlines, we've got blue, white, dark green, we've got a light tan, we've got multiple tan shades, we've got green on the inner palm. There's just so much going on. I have no idea what these gloves are. Obviously, the best combo is going to be the classic vanilla as far as combos go, but honestly, I will say, even though they're cheap, they're quite hard to work with in terms of inventories, loadouts, and colors. There's just too much going on. So I did mention that orange gloves in CS2 are rare. So the foundations are a great budget choice because they're cheap and they do have that orange color. The design is interesting. It's got a mesh pattern on the back and it is a pattern based glove. So the specialist logos are going to move side to side depending on the pattern. The orange outlines are great. Inner palm is pretty good as well. Basically full gray with orange spots on the fingertips. This glove has incredible synergy with all the Asimov skins. Also like mango fades on the Huntsman or the Butterfly works really well here. Very unique glove. Quite cheap. I think it's a sleeper pick for a couple of different options. For the last 2 gloves, we've got green. First up is Forest DD-Pat, quite a cheap glove, brown and green as the base colors. We've got a DD-Pat pattern on the back that is pattern based. You can switch it up with a couple of accents of like tan on the fingers. Now this glove actually has a lot of synergy to it in terms of agents, in terms of skins like the Flashback, in terms of knives like the Huntsman lore. All of that will work. So if you're a fan of this dark green color, I would highly recommend these gloves. They have some very nice utility with these dark green loadouts. For the last glove of the video, we've got Buckshots. It's a super cheap glove. We've got orange accents on the Tortu logo. The main colors are going to be green and brown. Now, this glove is pattern based, and you can actually find some patterns that have a ton of the light orange color leaves that we see on this pattern right here. You can even find more of them. In my opinion, the standout is going to be the inner palm. I love the green shade that we see here on the brown accents. Overall, it's a decent glove, very hard to work with. However, if you actually pair these gloves with like guns where you see the inner palm, I think it's going to be a perfect combo at a super reasonable price. And finally, specialist gloves offer a very unique glove type that can be used in a ton of different ways. From the colors to the patterns to the prices, there's a ton to choose from, so there's a huge benefit in picking this glove type. So that's pretty much it for this video. Guys, if you enjoyed or found it helpful, consider subbing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. It would be heavily appreciated. I made this video for newcomers in CS2. There's a ton of gloves and it's a bit overwhelming, so you can kind of decide and narrow down which gloves you would like to get. With that being said, I hope y'all have a great day and see you in the next one. Peace out, everyone.